Hi everyone, this is Michael Ma with Emeritus Wealth Management. One of the most common questions I get when working with clients in higher education, universities, and nonprofit hospital systems is this. What is the actual process to take money out of TIAA and why does it feel so complicated? And it's a great question because once you spend years building up your retirement savings, the next step is figuring out how to actually access it in a way that aligns with your goals. So today I want to walk you through not just the options, but the actual paperwork and process behind taking money out of TIAA so you know exactly what to expect. If you haven't watched my previous video on how TIAA Traditional works and the different payout options, that's a helpful foundation. But today we're focusing specifically on the process and the forms. At a high level, once you've decided how you want to take money out, whether that's a one-time withdrawal, a monthly income stream, requirement distributions, a lifetime annuity, a transfer payout annuity, or rolling funds into an IRA, the next step is actually implementing that decision. And that is where things can start to feel a bit overwhelming. The first thing to understand is this. With TIAA, you often have more than one account. You may have multiple contracts. These can include retirement annuity or RA, retirement annuity or GRA, retirement choice plus, and supplemental plans like GSRA. Depending on your employer, you may have multiple plans, and within each plan, multiple contracts. So it's not uncommon for someone to have several different buckets of money within TIAA. Now here's the key concept, and this is where most of the confusion comes in. Each contract requires its own set of paperwork. So for example, if you have 3 plans and each plan has 2 contracts, you could be looking at 6 separate sets of forms just to begin distributions. Now we add another layer. If your money is split between TIAA Traditional and your variable or mutual fund investments, those are treated differently. If you're taking money from your non-TIAA Traditional investments, that's typically one process. But if you're taking money from TIAA Traditional, you may need to elect a specific payout option, such as a lifetime income, a transfer payout annuity, or interest-only option. And each of those elections may require additional paperwork. So now, instead of 6 forms, you could be dealing with 10, 12, or more forms, depending on your situation. Now, for many of you, especially in private universities, your plan may be subject to ERISA rules. And this introduces something very important, the spousal waiver requirement. By law, your spouse is typically entitled to a portion of your retirement benefits. So when you take money out, you're reducing that potential benefit. Because of that, your spouse must sign a waiver, and that signature must be notarized. Now here's where people run into issues. The order of signatures matters. You, the participant, must sign first or on the same day as your spouse. If the spouse signs and notarizes before you do, the paperwork can be rejected as not in good order. So what I always recommend is this. Have the participant, spouse, and notary all sign on the same day to avoid any delays. Next, the type of distribution you choose also affects the process. If you're doing a one-time withdrawal, every time you request a distribution, you'll need a new set of forms, including the spousal waiver and notarization, if applicable. If you're setting up systematic monthly withdrawal, that's generally easier to maintain. Decreases can often be done without new paperwork, but increases typically require new forms, and if you're setting up requirement distributions, that's usually a one-time setup, and TIAA handles the calculations going forward. So when a client tells me this feels really complicated, I completely understand where that's coming from, but the reality is it's not that the process is difficult, it's that it's very structured. And once you understand how many contracts you have, what type of assets you own, and what distribution method you're choosing, the process becomes much more manageable. So the key takeaway is this. The complexity isn't in taking money out of TIAA, it's in understanding how all the pieces fit together. And that's where working with someone who understands the system can really help to avoid delays, reduce frustration, and make sure everything is done correctly the first time. If you have any questions about your TIAA accounts, or you're getting close to retirement and want to start planning your income strategy, feel free to reach out. As always, I'll continue sharing insights to help you make more informed financial decisions. Thanks again for your time. Emeritus Wealth Management is not affiliated with TIAA. This content is for informational purposes only and should not be considered individualized financial advice. Please consult with your advisor before making any financial decisions.